It's very nice to be talking with you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm a fan of Twin Peaks just like everybody else.
It's funny because I've been doing these sort of Twin Peaks kind of retrospective podcasts for a while, off and on, ever since I interviewed Jennifer Lynch last year. And I would always get, some person on YouTube saying, "It's over. Get over it." And I'm like, we're just talking about it. And now all of a sudden, now that it's being discussed again, obviously people are really excited to hear what everyone's thinking. So
people. I didn't think it was going to come back. Some things just they are what they are, and they don't need a comeback. But I'm pretty excited about it.
Right.
Twin Peaks and David Lynch changed television forever. There wouldn't be Game of Thrones, there wouldn't be House of Cards, there wouldn't have been all this stuff without David showing everybody that anything was possible on television. There was just a formula of there've been changes in the content. There've been miniseries and things like All in the Family that changed, the dialogue, but not in the actual process of television. So I'm real proud to be involved in it. Both as an actor and as a native actor. You don't get that many chances to do art. And the Hawk was a great character. It did away with some stereotypes and held mirrors up to others. It's really funny now. I'm now officially the old guy in the sci-fi films that goes, "Don't dig there." My wife goes, "Do they ever listen to the old guy?" No, they never listen. There's always some wise elder that goes, "I wouldn't mess with that graveyard." They go, "Oh yeah, yeah, sure." And then they start digging in there. Some horrendous evil comes out.
Now, before we get to actually talking about Twin Peaks, for a while now, you've been doing a lot of voice work. How did that all come about?
Oh, I've always wanted to do it. I've always been a fan of animation. My mom actually used to work back in Disney's painting cells, when we moved to California. And, I just kept asking, and I got a few things because I'm not really a linguist in my language, but I understand, I can speak enough to do certain things, and that's how I got in. And I started doing all kinds of, they would give me other voices to do, and it's really fun. It's all the people you went to school with that used to make gas noises and sent to the principal's office, there'll be people having a three-way conversation with themselves, and you look at them like, were you locked in a basement when you were a child?
Now I'm looking over some of the work you've done, and what's amazing is to think that in 4 years' time you went from a role on Knight Rider to Deputy Hawk on Twin Peaks. I mean,
yeah. Well, like I said, there's just not that much. A lot of people would say, I'm a Native American activist. A lot of people go, "Why do you want to do Walker, Texas Ranger, Knight Rider?" Will Sampson was a really good friend of mine before I ever got into movies, and he had done Cuckoo's Nest, and then he did a couple of films that weren't so good. And I go, "Why are you doing that?" And he said, "If I wait for the definitive role of my people, I'm going to work once every 6 years."
Right.
So, and I just got through doing Hell on Wheels, which I really liked. You ever seen any of that series? About the railroads?
Not yet.
Yeah, it's really, actually really good. Common, the rappers in it, and it was a joy to do. Yeah, I've done some. A lot of people would say, "Well, why did you do this? Why did you do that?" I said, "Oh, it's so bad I can't suck."
Well, you got to keep.
I never really wanted to be in the movies. I'm an artist. I just got into it kind of by accident. I did the remake of The Lone Ranger in the 1980s. I was renting my studio from an agent, and she says, "Want to be Tonto in The Lone Ranger?" And I went, "No." She kept asking me, I went, "No." She told me how much they were going to pay me, and Kimosabe, and that kind of started the whole thing. It's really funny. It was not a very good film. I did okay. I just wanted to come out of there, escape with some dignity. And I thought, well, one day they're going to do a really good one. I'll be known as the guy that did the crappy one my whole life. And I'm a huge Johnny Depp fan, but the creator looked down and he said, "I'm going to make this worse than the one you did." And it was just atrocious. But I think Tonto's dead. I don't think we're going to see him for a long, long time.
Yeah, it's interesting because Johnny Depp, I really admire him as an actor, but it almost seemed like he was stretching a little bit by saying, oh, I'm 1/8, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can
Well,
play Tonto.
that wasn't even the problem. The problem just it was like Captain Jack Sparrow plays Tonto. It wasn't written very well. It wasn't very funny. People go, "Well, it was just funny." I go, "No, it wasn't funny."
Yeah, I remember a woman I worked with. She saw the trailers for it, and I think she saw some of the movie, and she said, "I grew up watching The Lone Ranger on TV. That show was not a comedy."
No, well, you could have done it. It just wasn't funny,
Right.
It had some moments. All the native guys that in it were really good, but just because you want to make Tonto a little bit smarter, you don't make the Lone Ranger an idiot. He's kind of an icon, It's
So,
really interesting. All these kids are watching Twin Peaks now. My wife and I will be going to the movies, and she says, "Oh, those kids are following you." And I said, "Are you Twin Peaks fans?" They go, "Are you the Hawk?" And yeah, and they just go crazy. It's really, it's really fun for me. And I've been doing student films, these I'm kind of semi-retired, and these kids are finding me. My agent won't even return their call. He knows they don't have any money, but they'll find me on the internet. My wife says, "I don't even get on the internet. That's there's a redial button on my phone." My wife will go, this young film student's looking for you. So I'll say, "Well, have them give me a phone number," and I'll call them, and they'll say, "Well, I can pay you like $600." I said, "Kid, I stay home and paint and make that kind of money, Are you really good?" And they went, "Yeah, I'm good." "Well, send me some stuff. If you're good, I'll do it for free." So I've done like 3 or 4 of these films, and it reminds me that filmmaking is art. It's a pleasure, and I'll carry cable for them and all that stuff. You don't have to do that. And so, it's just a joy to see, there's such energy about these young kids. I'm also hoping one of them's going to be the next genius and use me again.
Well, it's interesting because when Twin Peaks came out, and I was one of the original viewers of it as well. This was a time before the internet, before DVR, so it's like literally like if you missed an episode, you were screwed.
Yeah,
following. And I remember visiting my sister up in Reading, and she had only antenna, and so like in order to see the episode, I had to hold the rabbit ears in a certain direction for the whole hour so I could see what was happening. And I remember that was the episode where you gave the little speech in the Target range about your girlfriend, Diane Shapiro.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it was funny though, because now with Netflix streaming and the Blu-ray set and everything, I mean, now it's like everyone's like caught up, and so it's funny because when I showed the series to my wife, it never plays now like a very confusing show, but at the time it was. But we've now trained our brains with so many other TV shows that Twin Peaks today is like it's relatively easy to follow if you're paying attention,
Yeah, it was so new that it was so much fun to watch the executives show up. And they go, "He's a genius," and they were just frightened to death. And they go, "Do something with this. Put it on like Sunday afternoon when like old people are sleeping." It's they were trying their best to get rid of it. And they kept telling David, people would say, "You can't do this on TV," and he kept going, "Why?" But that door, that genie will never go back in the bottle. There's so many things now and television's been the best in the last 4 or 5 years, the best it's ever been. I mean, there's just some amazing things, Homeland and the True Detectives, these 9 episode, stories. That was one of the best things I'd ever seen on television. Fargo was incredible.
Yeah, there's been some amazing shows over the last, I would say, even 10 years, from like The Shield to Breaking Bad to,
Oh, yeah, because movies have become this big event, and they're just not so much story driven, so it's back to television. A lot like what happened in the 50s, the early writers in Playhouse 90 and Rod Sterling and these were really well written pieces.
I remember when Twin Peaks was on Saturday nights at 10 o'clock, and I was 14 at the time. So for me, it was like the perfect night. But I understand for everybody else, they were out. But for me, I didn't have a date, I didn't have a car, so I was quite happy to watch it Saturday nights at 10.
Well, I'm very excited to see what they're going to do now because they don't have any restraints whatsoever. And David's, that was one of the reasons that Twin Peaks kind of failed, is David went off to do some other stuff and left it in. Nobody's got David's artistic eye. So I'm just waiting to see what they're going to give me. I think they're going to give me something. I don't know if you can do without the Hawk, and whatever they got for me is going to be a real joy.
You're gonna be in it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, that's the way I look at it. But I've done a lot of stuff with a native character that they kind of bring back, and for some reason they go, we don't need any Indians in this.
Yeah,
but the Hawk was kind of the only sane one in the whole place.
That's true, but also you in a different way, like Agent Cooper, felt that there was another presence there that the other characters didn't quite grasp. Yeah. Certainly, Harry didn't want to believe it, and Andy was, too busy worrying about his sperm. So, but I was. I think if the evil comes back after 25 years, I think the Hawk's the first one that he's going to know. Well, that's the thing is that, in the series, it's revealed that Bob was inside Leland for 40 years. So it's quite possible that Bob is still inside Cooper after 25.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now that Don Davis, rest his soul, is no longer here, obviously Hawk is going to be the one to help get them out of the lodge.
Yeah. Don was a really good friend of mine. I used to work in Canada a lot, and I used to go up and see him. I really, really liked him,
It was great to see you and everyone back in the deleted scenes that they put on the Blu-ray for Fire Walk with Me.
I never saw it.
Okay. Well, you're in one of the scenes. But it's kind of interesting to me because obviously there's a lot more in the script that either was not shot or it just wasn't included on the Blu-ray. Personally, I think it was done a little bit on purpose so that people couldn't create the ultimate fan cut, I think David wanted to hold a little bit close. But like when you heard there was going to be, let's say the series ends, how long was it before you got contacted about even being in the film? Was it right away?
It was pretty much right after it, and there was actually two movies going on at the same time, and it was so nice that David called me personally. He said, "Look, I'm really sorry, Michael, but we cut your stuff out." And I said, "Well, thank you for calling, because you don't know how many things I've done and gone to see it, going, where am I?"
Right.
David is the sweetest man. He's he's really funny. He's kind of like Jimmy Stewart with Salvador Dali's intestines. Yeah, that was really keen what you did in the scene, but this time, because you can make it and bark like a dog, So, but and I knew Jack. Jack and I were really good friends. My first agent handled me. Viva used to be with one of Warhol's actresses, and Jack, and everything made sense through Jack's eyes. Mm-hmm. Jack could explain things to me. I mean, David told me a story that they were casting for Racerhead, and he wasn't really going to use Jack, and he went outside, and there was Jack kind of just awing over this old Volkswagen that had this beautiful handmade wood rack on the top, and he was talking about it, and that's when David went, oh. But yeah, Jack was quite amazing. I'd done some. I don't know if you've ever seen The Cowboy and the Frenchman.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really funny because Joanna Reyes was a good friend of mine. She cast me in some other stuff, and that's. I did that. I think it was so bizarre that the French gave it back. Harry Dean's really funny. I've known Harry Dean for a billion years, and every time he sees me, he just I don't know you. But I asked David, what are you going to do next? He said, TV series. And I went, cable? And he went, no, regular TV. And I went, okay. But I'm really excited. I'm really excited to there's to see what's going to happen. I'm so proud of it. I've been turning down stuff lately because it's just the same stupid stuff over and over. And, and it didn't take me long to figure out that it's only going to be as good as it's written. I mean, I'll drive 6 hours down to L.A. and somebody will make the mistake of saying, well, what'd you think of my script? And I'll tell them it's not very well written. And they go, who are you? And I go, I can fucking read. My wife goes, how did that go? I don't think they'll be hiring me.
Yeah, it's funny because you're talking about True Detective. Well, this is kind of a similar thing because not only is Mark and David writing every episode, but they're producing every episode and actually going to be on set, and then David's going to direct every episode. And the last time that happened was when HBO did True Detective, where they had one director and one writer through the whole series.
Yeah.
So there'll be a continuity to it,
Yeah, and Mark, I'm a big fan of Mark's. I mean, Mark got my character, the Hawk. I think Mark got it even better than David did. Mark really understood, And that's why X-Files worked so good, because Chris Carter had his hands on everything. Anytime I see something and there's like 17 producers and 19 writers, I know it's going to suck.
Yeah, because it's like when you see a screenplay that's like the colors of the rainbow, you just know it's in trouble. Wait, so you took 6 different scripts and put them together? All right, great.
Yeah. But it's just it was so much fun to work on. The big scene where they're throwing the rocks and making the guess, and they had the big pot of rocks, and I got these oven mitts on, and I'm asking Lynch, what does this mean? He goes, nothing. We just want to see you in oven mitts. And then I go to grab the pot. He says, no, like this. And I went, this is kung fu. And kung fu, when David Carradine would pick up the hot pot, and I laughed. But there were times when we were actually in the last room when Evil was in Leland,
Right.
Somebody said, somebody should go for help. And I went, I'll go, because I didn't, both as a native person, I didn't want to be in there when they called on that kind of evil. Sometimes that's a place you don't even want to go.
Right. It's funny because, you're in some of the most soulful moments of the show, and then your character also is like whipped to the other side where you're in some of the most comedic parts of the show. Yeah. I mean, the way, your facial reactions anytime Ian Buchanan is like...
Yeah. Well, he was so funny. He's such a serious, trained actor, and he just was amazing, because he would just watch me just screw up and miss my mark and all that stuff, and he's going, how does this kid work? It was so funny. I'm wondering if they can find Andy. I don't know what happened. I think he went down back to Texas or something. I hope they dig him out of the woodwork, because he was freaking hysterical.
And to think, when you first saw the pilot, I mean, you had no idea of that Lucy and Andy were going to become such the comedic tour de force.
Nobody had any idea where this was going. Even Everett and I were really good friends. Even Everett and I were, we'd be sitting there and go, Everett, you get any of this? And he goes, no. But yeah, I'm wondering how much of the old cast they'll stick in there. And I think if they don't have some of the old cast, people are going to be disappointed. But David doesn't work that way. David's that's what makes David who he is. David's eye is David's eye. So, he's not going to listen to anybody. He's going to do what he wants to do, so.
But I think having Mark Frost there does balance it out a little bit because because
I would watch them. I would watch him. I would just watch Mark going, David.
Because I really do enjoy Fire Walk With Me. I really do. I love that film. But you can definitely tell Mark Frost wasn't there because Lynch just goes wild. But whenever you see that they both co-wrote it and Lynch is directing, there's a balance to it. It's not an insane free-for-all.
All these wonderful directors that came on Twin Peaks. Tina Rathburn is hysterical because she had this kind of little voice, and she goes, "Okay, Deputy Hawk, what is you have your gun. What does that mean to you?" It doesn't mean anything to me. I'm a cop. Well, what's your relationship with it? Nothing. They make me wear it.
And how was Diane Keaton directing?
I didn't get to work with her. I was really disappointed. She's the one I didn't get to work with, and I would have liked to, you know. What was the other guy that did? Ole Edelson that did Last Exit to Brooklyn. He was interesting to work with.
I heard that he was kind of hard to work with.
Oh yeah, he goes. I go, hey, what do you want me to do? He goes, you're just furniture to me. You just do what and I don't take shit from anybody. And I was asking the crew. I said, is this guy that good? He goes, yeah, he's really good. And I went, hey pal, you can talk to me like that, but this better be really good when I see it, or I'm gonna kick your ass. And I went, okay, it's a deal.
What about Tim Hunter?
Oh, wonderful, just wonderful. All those guys were wonderful.
Yeah.
It was, my favorite was Leslie Glatter. And boy, is she's just knocking them dead now. She's doing Homeland and Masters of Sex, and she was my favorite.
Yeah, it's funny because you're talking about how Lynch has his own way of doing things, and yes, he definitely does. Mark Frost, though, I don't know if you're following some of the articles being written about the new Twin Peaks, but he's definitely coming out saying, yes, we're going to have new characters, et cetera, but the whole intent on doing this as a limited series is to present some sort of closure, which we know means that there'll be some answers, but then Lynch will ask about 1 million more and then end it. So
yeah. Do you got any kind of clue when they'll start? They'll probably start filming sometime next year.
Yeah.
I would imagine, yeah.
I mean, there's a few things everybody's interested in. Me personally, because of the questions that Fire Walk With Me asks, I'm really curious why the Black Lodge has such a fascination with kidnapping FBI agents. There's now 3 of them that they've kidnapped, if you count Chris Isaac and David Bowie's character. So, I mean, looking at it, it seems like, wow, did they make it so that when Cooper came to town that they were like going to figure out a way to get rid of Bob out of Leland so they could get Bob into Cooper?
They didn't figure out nothing. They were just doing it, And Ingalls too. He's a pretty good writer. He's all of them were good.
Yeah.
It was really funny. Duchovny, when Duchovny came, he played the transvestite agent. And some of the crew are like, they're looking at him really strange. They go, he's just an actor, dude. He's not even a good-looking woman. And when I had my picture taken with him, I was like eating lunch and had my arm around him. So I had a picture. So when I did X-Files, I was in the makeup, and I said, I used to date David's sister. And they go, well, he had a sister. And I showed the picture, and they went, oh God. And they had it up there, and they said, yeah, Michael said he used to date your sister. And he goes, that's me, you idiots.
I hope Dennis and / Denise comes back and
yeah.
And I really, you know what? Honestly, I know everyone always gets into the Laura Palmer case, which obviously is way important. But I gotta tell you, towards the last half of season 2, I got really into the whole Wyndham Earle thing. I think that was a kind of a brilliant stroke of genius to come up.
Oh
with that
yeah.
character.
Oh yeah.
I think
I go back and watch it, and it's just I haven't watched it for. And I never saw the. I have the Fire Walk With Me. I've never put it on to see it. I don't watch a lot of television. I'm usually working and I'm gone.
Have you've seen the movie, or you haven't seen the movie?
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the cut. The new cut with me in it. I saw the movie, but I didn't see the one with the deleted scene.
Well, you're still not in the movie. It's in the bonus features.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what I figured. Yeah.
Well, because it's funny because I just talked to Piper Laurie, and she said that she's never seen the movie at all. So
she's amazing. When she was playing the Japanese man.
Yeah.
I did not recognize her. I thought it was somebody else.
She told me this really funny story that Jack Nance went into David's office and demanded to know who this new actor was because he's really weird.
God, I love Jack. I lived down in Venice. I used to work in a little liquor store down there way before I even got into the movies, And Jack was down there. And Jack came in one day early in the morning, and I know Jack didn't get up early. And I went, hey, man, what are you doing up this early? And he says, well, I got up this morning and realized, man, that the hot water wasn't working in the apartment. And I left really quick because then I remembered that I'm the super.
I'm sure you've seen that wonderful documentary made about him, I Don't Know Jack.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, there's not anybody that I've shown that to who either they've heard of Jack Nance or hasn't heard about Jack Nance. After they see that documentary, they're tremendously moved by his personality and spirit.
Oh, one of my favorite things I have is when I first, known Jack for a long time, and I see a Eraserhead and they go, hey, Jack, I'm a pretty out there guy, I'm an artist, and what the fuck did that mean? So I have a picture of him from Eraserhead and it says, figure it out yet, love Jack. I would have to ask Jack. I go, Jack, that's what we just shot here. What does this mean? And everything made sense through Jack's eyes.
Right.
Yeah, Jack really liked me. We were really close. Everybody was nice on that set. Joan Chen was a little bizarre.
Who is?
She showed up one day.
Oh, Joan Chen.
Joan Chen. She was a little bizarre.
Well, she even says herself that she was in some weird place in her life, and looking back, she realizes what a special time it was, but she didn't really think of it at the time as that. So, she didn't enjoy it at the time. It's like people who try to rush out of high school and then go, that was the best years of my life. So.
Yeah, her and Rutger Hauer showed up. They were kind of dating, man. And between the both of them, man, that was really scary. But I'm really excited about it. I'm excited for the fans. I'm excited. I'm a fan just like everybody else. It's so. I don't care. I don't care if I get any notoriety for being in the movies. But Twin Peaks fans, they're really special. It's like I say, it's art, and you don't, especially in television, you don't get that many opportunities to do art. So if I never worked again, that's something I'm always going to be glad to do. There's two things I did in my career. I did that, and I did a primetime drama. Native drama in Canada called North of 60. It was on for 7 years. I did about almost 3 years of it, and it was really, really good. It was just for Canadian television, and that was a joy to do.
Well, one thing's for sure, because of the way Twin Peaks was shot, because of the music, and the way the outfits were in the show, it does not date. So people watching it today still see it as classic and timeless as people did when it aired.
Yeah.
And I think that was a very smart decision on everyone's part to not date it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite moments of yours, and I'm sure other people's as well, is when you threw the knife at the guy in the One-Eyed Jacks, and then you went back to retrieve your blade, which is fantastic.
There's things I don't even remember. Every now and then we did it at a seminar at USC, and I've gone to the Twin Peaks Festival a couple of times just because I want to take my wife up and show her where we worked, And people ask me questions I don't even remember. I don't remember doing that,
Well, one thing's for sure, David Lynch on Showtime, I'm just hoping that we get One-Eyed Jacks uncut.
Yeah. Yeah, God knows. Like I said, God knows. It's a really good thing that he's got Mark with him.
Right.
Right. Because God knows where David would go.
Well,
but
yeah.
I'm just such a fan of David, and he's such a nice man. Both him and they're really sweet guys. They would tell me, after Mark Ingalls would tell me that a lot of trouble, Native people, Indian people, we're the only ones that they're, especially in television, that they're just deadly afraid of offending. I'm a comedic actor. I've had so many pilots for sitcoms. I have so many friends that are directors of sitcoms, and when it's not quite working, they go, "We need a really good straight man. Go get Michael." But Bob Ingalls told me that the networks were, they go, "He can't do this or he can't do that," and they go, "Yeah, sure he can," But yeah, it was really fun. All these wonderful people, all these characters, that came out of the, working with Barbara Laurie is an icon, man. That's a 50s, 60s icon,
And so was, Richard Beamer and Russ Tamblyn.
Oh, Beamer. Oh, yeah. Well, Russ and I know each other. See, Russ and I and Dean Stockwell used to live together in Topanga Canyon. We ran together. So I knew Russ long before before I'd ever met David.
So you were around when Hopper was up there too?
Oh yeah, yes, I knew Hopper really well. I knew Hopper a little bit too well. I bought my first house in Topanga Canyon in 1974 for $35,000 cash. I spent many a couple of days up on his place in Taos up there. So he would tell me stories about working with James Dean and stuff. Hopper was a pretty amazing guy. But yeah, both, Russ and Dean, Dean Stockwell were really, really good friends. They would tell me, what it was like, being contract players back in the 60s and stuff. And, they were kind of my peers. Topanga Canyon was a very interesting place. I kind of stumbled in there by accident, and it was very, very interesting. Eric DeRay, I just talked to. It'd be interesting to see if they dig him out.
I hope so, because Leo Johnson, last time we saw him, he was holding on to some spiders in his mouth. That rope.
Yeah, Eric's an interesting guy, and that's Joanna's son.
Right.
Joanna Ray, the cat. That's so. Like I said, I've known Eric ever since he was a young kid.
So when you go up to the Twin Peaks Festival. And let's say you're at Snoqualmie Falls and you're in that area, what does that area like what does it say to you? Because I was up there a year ago with my wife, and I'd been up there maybe once before, but she had never been, and she just could not believe. She had seen the show, but she could not believe the power of those falls. And it's she almost thought it was overpowering just being there, not just because of the show, but just the sight of the falls,
Well, I'm the most un-New Age guy in all of Berkeley, but I grew up in a pretty traditional background, To all indigenous people, all tribal people, waterfalls are big-time medicine, That's the power of nature, the spirit of nature. So, of course, the indigenous people from up there, of course, there's what we call medicine there. You can feel it.
Well, I certainly hope that Mark Frost and David Lynch call you up and say, "Come be in this," because I think
they've kind of talked. David's assistant called. He was trying to get a call from me in Paris to talk to me. So I figured either David was going to call if they were doing it again. I'm sorry, we're not going to use you. He's that sweet of a guy. But of all the characters on Twin Peaks, Hawk is I've found that's some of most people's favorite.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. And
so I don't think you can especially the Hawk being an old gray-haired guy now. I don't think that. I think they'd be kind of missing something if they didn't use me for something, But like I said, David, I got such respect for David as an artist. If David didn't use me, I wouldn't be upset. I'd be disappointed, but not upset.
Right. It's
what David sees is what David sees.
It's interesting because over the last 3 years, whenever there was the Twin Peaks rumor, Mr. Lynch himself was the first one to shoot it down. And some things I thought to myself, some things that's what made Twin Peaks so mysterious is that's the way it ended. Right. But then to read that Mark Frost and Lynch have been talking on and off for 3 years, having lunches together, it's like, wow, you didn't even give a hint that you guys were interested in this. You just said no. And now we get yes.
Well, I think it's going to be a really big deal, and I don't think anybody's going to be disappointed. There's going to be the old fans are going to like it, and the kids that have been watching are going to like it, and I think you're going to get some new fans.
And personally, I think Kyle needs to come back to that character because for years now, whether it be Sex and the City, Desperate Housewives, I've watched him as an actor be degraded by so many women that I need to see him back.
I know he's just been turned into this yuppie milquetoast Jello, guy. And where's that guy that was in Twin Peaks and was in Blue Velvet? So I think this is going to be a good thing for his career.
And I hope they're able to pull Michael Onkine out of Hawaii too.
Well, I already heard they are. Yeah.
Oh, great. Because
Yeah,
one of the
that's what I
core
heard.
things of Twin Peaks, I would say, is Cooper and Truman's friendship.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, but it's going to be really interesting. I think David, knowing David, I think he's going to be really fascinated by where they're going to get some new characters. There's going to be some young girls, that's quite the eye of these guys, but it's what happened to these characters 25 years later is going to be really interesting to the fans.
Do you think we're going to go to Poland like Inland Empire?
Real possible,
Exactly.
God knows where people. I'm working in the most bizarre places. If I have to do one film in Louisiana, uh, just strange places that people are working at. It's the industry's no longer in one place anymore.
If anything else, as a friend of mine said, it gets David Lynch back in the directing chair, which we haven't seen since 2006. So
Yeah, I've been wondering. Well, he's been doing other stuff. He's had his other foundations, and and trying to heal the world, and it's going to be real interesting to see where it goes. I just hope that they said that it's not going to come on until in 2016.
16.
Yeah, so that means they'll shoot it all next year, and then it'll come on air in 2016.
But what's nice about it too is they're not giving like this big rushed schedule, so they can take their time with it. I looked at it as it's kind of like the way season 1 was shot, where it was like it was all done before it even aired. And I think that's just I think they want to go back to that vibe of just if there's something they want to go back and fix, they have time to fix it. They don't have to just crank it out and try to churn out 22 episodes in a given year.
Yeah,